Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Gamechangers. Today, we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Joseph Young, Director of Product Management at MobilityWare. Joseph, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. Thanks for the introduction. Like I said, I'm Joseph Young. I'm the Director of Product at MobilityWare. I've been here for just under a year, and I work on the card suite at MobilityWare. And what we work on in the card portfolio includes the first Solitaire app in the App Store, Spider, Free Cell, Pyramid, and newer Solitaire games such as Castle and Addiction. On top of that, we also have competitive card games such as Hearts and Spades, which have added diversity to our card portfolio. And we also have tile matching games such as Mahjong and brain training games like Sudoku. Beyond the card suite, MobilityWare also has the puzzle suite as well as Jigsaw, Dice Merge, Tetra Block, and WordWiz. A little bit about myself. Prior to MobilityWare, I was at Jam City working on Cookie Jam Blast, and some other titles there. Prior to that, I was at Disney Interactive working at Club Penguin, helping to bring it to mobile and run the parties and events that were really fun for our players there. And also spent some time at Nokia and Navtech helping do product management. Before I moved into product management, I was a software engineer and started my career making games for phones back when Nokia was the big phone manufacturer. Wow. And working on some console games as well. Yeah. So it was, I think it was more along the lines of Motorola, where there was like the deck and you had to compete for the deck. But it was a fun time to get into games, and I've always loved games and loved the opportunity to play and work on games.
And from Snake, you guys moved on to Solitaire.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, speaking of Solitaire, as Joseph mentioned, MobilityWare is huge in the Solitaire space, and not just Solitaire, but the entire cards and casino space. This is a very exciting set of game genres that had almost a 29% increase in downloads last year and an even bigger increase of 45% in revenue. And here we are showing you the top subgenres across all these cards and casino genres. So Solitaire is the number 2 biggest subgenre within cards and casino. And you can also see some other subgenres here like hybrid casino that had huge growth last year, also led by a lot of some games like Coin Master. And if we were to zoom in into the Solitaire subgenre, we can see that also MobilityWare is the worldwide biggest company for downloads of this category over the course of last year. So we're very happy and excited to learn from you, Joseph, on all these specific strategies that you guys may have in executing this number 1 position.
Yeah, happy to share what we've learned.
Great. So first, something more personal. So we'd like to understand which is your favorite game amongst all your entire company's suite of games.
Yeah, we have so many games, it's hard to choose, but I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be Spades. Spades was a game that I grew playing up as a child, and I played it with my friends, I played it with my family, relatives, and it was a great game, and it combines strategy, skill, and luck, and makes each round feel fun and unique. And completing a nil bid, getting an opponent to miss their bid count, all of those things are really exciting. And then in our game, we also have leagues, so the ability to move up leagues and compete against yourself and these bots is really fun. All these joyful experiences that make Spades really fun to play. Then, when you're talking about the mobility where kind of edge, or what we like to bring on top is really the polish that makes our game stand out against the market. We have dancing celebrations when you win. We have really clear UX to teach the player scoring. The first time you learn a game like Spades, and the concept of bidding and scoring and all those things are very hard to teach. And we do that very much through motion graphics in a way of using less language and more learning through exploration that makes it a really fun and sticky game for our players. And that helps us support a wide variety of devices and go kind of really broad in terms of how many regions we can cover with the game. I think a close second to that would be a house game that we developed, a solitaire game called Castle Solitaire, and it's an original IP from MobilityWare. And it's an amazing solitaire game that anyone can pick up and play and learn in under a minute. And it has this great feeling in the game where every time you feel like you're on the verge of losing and you flip over the last card, and then that card starts turning the corner of the solitaire and you're filling it out. And then very often you're down to your last card, and then you can take that and turn it into a win. And it's such a fun experience for us and our players.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear that how you guys have taken all these traditional games, and innovated on them to take it to a new level for the audiences of today.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, it's super fun.
So great. The next question. So stepping outside of your own in-house games, other games, which was the last game you went wow, and why?
I think the last game I went wow and why was probably, I would say, Among Us. I think it was just I know it's not as popular now as it was kind of last year during the pandemic, but when I think
It's
back
also kind
about,
of a traditional game, but put on a multiplayer online angle to it.
yeah, it's very
Yeah.
much like a werewolf game or
Mm,
or those games where you're doing masquerade. So
mm,
it's very a traditional mechanic, but it's put in a very easy and accessible way. It's anyone can pick up and play it. It goes along with a lot of those values that we're talking about, where it's easy to pick up and play. Anyone can learn how to play it. It's accessible to anyone, and it was super fun. And then I think it was a great way for me to connect with friends that I wasn't playing games with at the time, and it became like a great party game. And for me, it was about the memory of reconnecting with all my friends. And that was when I was like, wow, this is just a much more accessible way for me to connect with all my friends during a challenging time that was last year.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I play some heavy games like mobile games, and I play with the typical my typical gamer friends. But when I touch games like Among Us, I get to reconnect with a lot of other friends who are not really gamers, and I wouldn't have reconnected to them then. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
is, like you said, yeah, connecting with more friends, more people. Great. So moving on to the next question, we'd like to understand, we thank you for your partnership with us, with App Annie over the years. And also we'd like to understand what's your main use case of App Annie and MobilityWare.
Yeah, this was a hard question because I think
Mm,
we use you guys for so many things, and you keep adding more features. I think every couple of weeks I get an email from Frank, one of our reps at App Annie, and he's pointing out new features and new links. And I was sharing one of those recently with my coworkers on your creative library. So I wouldn't even say it was my favorite feature, but that was just like the most recent one that I was exposed to. That I was like, oh, we have to start looking at this within App Annie. I think the most traditional use cases for us is researching the competition and the market and looking to see who's moving up the charts, what has changed in their clients and advertising, what they've done in ASO, so that we can learn from them
mm.
and stay competitive. Being 10 years in the marketplace, you have to keep learning how ASO is changing and how competitors are playing within the marketplace, and App Annie gives us great insight into that. I think another really strong use case that we use App Annie for is market sizing, where right now the card suite has 16 games. We are always making games, and so using your tool to look at the market size and look for opportunities where we see that there's players that are interested in games like ours that we think are kind of market adjacent, and we think are opportunities for us to go and build out games with our feel and our usability, but maybe into a space that we could see has great opportunity and has some similarities to what we've already built.
Great to hear. So speaking of creatives gallery, so what do the best performing creatives for the cards and casino category look like?
Yeah, I think the best performing ones for card casino, they're not really, we've tried a couple of those fail card casino games. They're not as popular. They sometimes work. I think what we really focus on is like the simple solitaire experience, right? So when you're playing Solitaire by MobilityWare, you're just going to get a very simple game. We don't have an economy in there. We're not trying to, there's no pinch points in there, and it's just basic versions of the game. And I think a lot of players resonate with that, and our ads are kind of best performing ads are showing the game board, showing how easy it is to play on it, showing, and then showing people winning on the game. Ads always help if you're winning at the end. So I think those elements and focusing on just the simplicity and the ease and not having it be distracted with too many ads and too much purchasing really helps get the players interested in our game.
Thank you. Love that. Great. So next question, what do you think is the next big thing in gaming?
I think, we saw a little bit of this in the pandemic as kind of gaming picked up in popularity and lots more people started gaming. And it's that talk about being in the attention economy. And for us, what that means is being more and more player friendly. I think when I first started getting into games, there would be games where there would be like paywalls, or you'd have to, watch an ad to move on, or I think the concept of waiting a week to come back and play. I think players are expecting a lot of gameplay as soon as they download the game, and for us, that means making sure that our monetization is really player friendly and it's not gating, and doing things that are right for a player. I think retention is the key metric for us that we look at, and so to make a strong retaining game, you need to make sure that you're treating the players well and delivering joy, and that's something that we're always focused on. I think on top of that, subscriptions is really big. We're very lucky to be in a partnership with Apple, and recently had Solitaire and Sudoku released in the Apple Arcade in their latest kind of release of games. And we've seen that success from Google Play Pass, and just the subscriptions in our game have been really good for our players. And I think for players, they get a lot of value when you're subscribing to Apple Arcade or Google Play Pass. You're getting this large portfolio of really high quality games, and having our gaming there is really nice. And I think for players, that gives them a lot of choice, right? It's a lot easier for me to buy $5 a month for Google Play Pass, and then have that be my kind of like my gaming budget, rather than having to buy every single game and do in-app purchases in every single game. Or it helps the player have a lot of choice of great experience, while being profitable for us as a business as well.
It's great to hear subscriptions are working for you guys. Is that a theme for generally games that you would pay a subscription to not have ads? Does it work well specifically for that?
Well, our subscriptions provide no ads, and on top of that, we provide additional content. So I think its subscription is not just to remove ads. I think our subscription is a premium service, just like Amazon Prime or other premium services like that, where when you're paying that, we're going to give you, the big call out is you get no ads, but you also get a lot more content, and we allow players to play more hands and access to additional content that makes it rewarding for those players to be paying for the subscription.
Great. That totally makes sense. Okay, so the next question. So how should other companies work with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for us, we are an ad-driven business on the Card Suite. And so for us, we're always looking for ad partners to work with for our ad mediation platform. MobilityWare has its own ad tech. And so we're always looking for people who are advertising, looking for new channels to acquire users, and working with them to connect.
Okay, that's great to hear. Okay, so on to our final question for today. And this is from our previous guest, Mr. Iwaki from MyNet. He asked, what changes accelerated most in the US market after the last year?
Yeah, I think the biggest change has been our migration to a mobile-first lifestyle in the United States. I think when I have friends that are in Asia, and a lot of places there are really already mobile-first, but I think the pandemic has really moved the US mobile user, or just users, into all mobile users now. From the person playing for their first time experience playing Solitaire, Free Cell, and Spider on mobile, or a lot of our other games are being kind of explored on mobile for the first time. I think mobile is just so accessible to everyone, and there's they say there's an app for that and there's a game for that, and I think it's now on a very robust network that you can order your groceries, you can get rides, and there's just a plethora of games. My brother had not played mobile games in ever, I think, when I was growing up, and even when I was working. And when I was working at Jam City, he hadn't played any, but recently he's been playing some word games, and I think the mobile gamer is going to be everyone pretty soon. And I think in the US, we saw a huge increase of downloads, like you were talking about earlier during the pandemic. And I think that for us means just more people playing games and more people doing things mobile first, and kind of going to their mobile device to search things out first in the US now more than ever before.
Cool. What about your gamer demographics, specifically for, let's say, Solitaire? Did you just get a lot more users, or did you also get a lot more different buckets of demographics of users?
Well, I think for Solitaire, it's such a large game. It is broken into different groups. We did get an influx of players during the pandemic, and that a lot of them have stayed with us. A lot of them have left as well, as about mobile game retention. But I think we got a good mix of players, and I think it was some people just exploring like I said, Solitaire for the first time on mobile. They had maybe been playing on PC for a long time, but now, they're spent at home and they're on their second screen, and it's not always their laptop anymore. Now it's a lot more their phones, and then kind of playing Solitaire and getting into it. We were recently in the Tom and Jerry movie, so that was a great advertisement for us to show Solitaire as a fun experience for people to play, while they're waiting for things to go by. But for our players, especially in Solitaire, I think we got a good wave of people. They were kind of mixed demographic, and it's allowed them to stay with us and enjoyed the MobilityWare experience.
Great, thank you. So to our final part, we'd like to present you an opportunity to ask a question to our next guest. So any questions that you have for in the space of gaming?
I think within hyper casual, I always think about how many wacky ideas out there that come out that are super successful. So I'd love to hear from him a story of a game that he thought wasn't going to be successful, that he thought was too kind of silly or zany or crazy, and but they still pushed it out and turned out to be successful. So those are always kind of fun stories that I'd love to hear about. And so if there's one where there's a concept or a game that he didn't think was going to be successful but ended up being successful, I'd love to hear about it.
That would be great. That would be a great question. Great. Thank you. So thank you very much, Joseph, and thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We've come to the end of this segment today. Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.